Harlan's through, he might go for it, still going, trying to barge his way through, goes to the shot, what a goal!
Arriving Rian O'Neill from an almost impossible angle, and that's the rousing score Armagh were looking for.
Conor Turbin kicks this one in, that's absolutely superb.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Sideline Eye podcast. You're very welcome to our preview show, and we're looking ahead at the huge game in Celtic Park this Sunday afternoon as Derry host Armagh. I'm delighted to be joined by former Derry captain Gerard O'Kane, and we're going to give this a real build-up, I suppose, Gerard, because this is looking at the games this weekend. I know all the teams in Sam Maguire are playing, but this is the one that catches the eye. Roscommon and Mayo maybe too, but this is the big game of the weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, with probably the importance of it for both sides for different reasons. The fact that they're so close proximity now in Ulster. Armagh and Derry haven't played that much over the last 10 years, but obviously going back to the Ulster final last year where me and you had a good 30-minute discussion before it as well. There's probably a bit of familiarity there. Armagh maybe be sore from that, but I suppose they've had probably a long enough time to go over it. And I know from playing, people will ask Armagh people, are you looking for revenge from last year? And that is the furthest thing from their thoughts. They're just looking to probably kick on this year, and they put last year to bed and they put all that away. They'll not be sitting saying, do you remember that day they beat us in Clonus last year? But for both sides, it's massively important for two different reasons, because both are at different ends of the table, respectively if they win or lose.
I suppose just on that, while in the team environment and in the changing rooms, they're maybe not going, oh, remember Derry beat us last year, but I'm thinking of the likes maybe of a Conor Turbin or Andrew Murnan. I don't think they scored in the final last year off Chrissy McKaig and Owen McAvoy. Personally, is maybe Turbin going, well, I'm not letting Chrissy McKaig hold my scoreless this year? Is there a bit of inner drive that sort of way, maybe, in a personal perspective?
Oh, there's bound to be. And I don't know whether this is actually a true story. Whenever we played Tyrone in 2006 in Armagh, we had ball with Tyrone the years before. Obviously, they're all Ireland champions. Paddy always played well against Tyrone for my money, but he was always double or triple marked. And we had a training day one Saturday, and we're gathering again for Sunday. It wasn't a weekend. We didn't go anywhere. And whatever way it worked out, because me and Paddy had travelled together, and Skinner and their cousin, I just ended up staying at their house, and we get back together for training in the morning. And I went into Paddy's bedroom that night. So now we're two grown men, we weren't sharing a bed or anything, but went into Paddy's bedroom that night, and on the roof of the ceiling, looking down at him, there was a wee picture of Ryan McMenamin. I sort of was looking up, and I says, "All right, Paddy, you know what?" He was like, McMenamin had given him a bit of bad manners in casement maybe the 3 years before it. The time verbals were coming out, and I wouldn't repeat them, but they weren't great now. But Paddy was thinking, I'll not let him do that again, that sort of thing. And he didn't. So mentally, Paddy was just getting himself ready for that 1-to-1 battle, as opposed to the team environment. He never said it in the team change rooms, this or that. But again, Turbin and Murnan might be thinking the same. They might be thinking, right, well, this guy got one over me last year, so I'll be doing my best to make sure that I go out this year and put my best foot forward. And I suppose if them two are clicking on anyway, it's probably giving Armagh a better chance of winning as well, they'll probably think. So it's a double-edged sword in that they want to do it for themselves, given what happened last year. But they know if they're clicking, that the team has a better chance of winning.
Well, I think that's the big thing for Armagh, because I know Andrew Murnan, he only scored a point last week, but he got voted as our man of the match against Westmeath. He was everywhere. He had a really good impact on the game. Turbin got 2 points, and I think Armagh had 9 scorers in the end, Gerard. So, I suppose even when Rian O'Neill wasn't there, they're probably not over-reliant on anybody either, which is a good thing. That, Rory Grugan got 5, Campbell got 1, TK got 1, Conor O'Neill got 1 before he got injured, Kieran Macken, Aidan Nugent got 2 off the bench. So they can vary their scores, and even against Down, I know they scored 13 points and none of their forwards scored. Rory Grugan was only forward scored from, he was just hitting frees. So I suppose when you're defending against Armagh, there's probably a lot of scoring places that can get scores all over the field.
Yeah, and all those ones you mentioned, you never mentioned Conte either, who kicked a couple last week as well.
Yeah, he got
But
2.
that's always the way with Armagh. This last 3 or 4 years, they've been famed for trying to pick their front six. It's nearly impossible. And even the management team themselves have maybe been said a little bit about them. They don't know their best. There's a difference between getting your best team out and your best front six as your best balance. You know, now that like I've been involved in a bit of coaching, there's a distinct difference in just mashing up your best 15 players and throwing them against a wall, or getting the best balance you find for a game. So, but whatever way Armagh line out, they always have 4, 5, 6 different scorers in their forward line alone. Never mind the midfielders. Never mind like the half back line. Like Forker didn't score the last day. He kicked 2. He kicked 2 against Down the day before.
And one in the final as well.
Final, yeah. So like he's usually good for a score or 2 as well. So like their platform from number 5 to number 15, they're all capable of scoring. They're probably all capable of interchanging too. Like Conor O'Neill was playing 5 the last day. I know he's out hurt now. He play half forward for a man a few games as well.
Yeah.
Forker could play up there if needed be. Mackin can play in midfield. I know he was 6. So I think it'll be difficult for Derry to try and predict what Armagh team will take the field on Sunday if they're going for matchups and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's probably difficult for us to talk about our matchups because we've mentioned a few that happened last year, but obviously injuries and stuff just makes it a wee bit harder, Jared, because talk about Owen McAvoy picking up Andrew Murnan, he obviously missed the Galway game through injury. With Gareth McKinless now, he's suspended. Padraig McGrogan's out for the year. So I suppose the Derry starting 15, there's probably a few question marks over it about who's going to start and who's fit and who could make it and who could not.
Yeah, well, within Derry, we have always sort of referenced the half-back line and the 2 midfielders has been their sort of platform the last 3 years. Outside of Dublin, maybe as strong 5 players as there is in that line, you know. Now their half-back line has been decimated a bit. Like Conor Doherty has never really recovered. He got an injury down in Galway at the last week of February, went off hurt. He's never really seemed to recover from it. And as you say, like McKinless is gone. I haven't seen anything official, but they were talking about 2 games. McGrogan is gone for the year. That's your half-back line gone without looking at McAvoy playing half-back, who might drop into the full-back line. I'm not sure. Did they bring Kieran McFall back into the half-back line because he's played there for the club and played very well? But trying to get matchups around that then, not knowing who's playing, who's not. Up in there, I'll be honest, we hear very little about who's fit, who's not, who's available. Like, I know McAvoy, I think, against Galway, done the warm-up with the team and stayed out and done a bit extra. So if he was doing that 2 weeks ago, there might be a chance he could be playing, but I don't think Doherty was stripped at all. And it'll be hard to not go from being stripped to 2 weeks later playing the game of that intensity.
Yeah, obviously the big one from an Armagh point of view was Rian O'Neill didn't play last week, and seems that didn't hog out. He wasn't stripped at all. But just speaking, Ciarán McGeeney spoke to the press after, and he sort of made the case that it was he was fatigued after the Donegal game and maybe pushed himself a wee bit much in training and picked up a calf injury. So he was hopeful that he could make it this week, whether that's off the bench or from the start, I don't know. But I suppose if Rian O'Neill is fit, Jared, it's a big boost for Derry, and it's a matchup they'll have to be concerned about now that he's probably playing out around that midfield more so than inside or the half forward line. So I know Brendan Rodgers moved into the defence against Galway and Emmett Bradley started. Does Bradley or Glass pick up Rian O'Neill, do you think, if he starts, or is it a Rodgers job, or how do you see Derry reacting if Rian O'Neill is in from the start?
Rian had a fairly decent game last year in the Ulster final, from my memory.
Yeah,
you know, because there was a lot of pressure on him going into it. But from what I remember, it was one of Armagh's better players out in the middle. He scored a couple of points. He sort of took the game to Derry. So Armagh might be thinking, look, we've got Joy here before with him. We'll try and look to that again. So probably your natural inclination is that Rodgers would pick him up. I was surprised now, given he didn't start, that Oisin O'Neill didn't start. I thought Oisin played very well against Donegal in Ulster final when he came on. And he sort of gives them a bit more forward. Again, like he's another lad in that middle 8 who gives them a good forward impetus. So I know Tiernan Kelly played, and they're probably trying to get him more minutes because he's been injured as well. So, but with Rian, again, if they put him in the edge of the square, then does it negate what Murnan does, because can the two of them play together? Was it against Down in the semi-final last year? They both played up there and they caused Down a bit of ball, but different day. It was a really wet day in Clonus. But I think if Rian plays around the middle, Derry will probably look to Brendan Rodgers to pick him up.
And do you see Derry, do they go back to Glass and Rodgers, Gerard, because Emmett Bradley is probably their best impact sub as well, so starting him, just with their injuries, and not they had to start him against Galway, but I suppose if they're trying to get impact off the bench too, and they're maybe holding Bradley in reserve, and McAvoy, if he's back, like there's probably a few headaches for Mickey Hart here when he's picking his starting 15.
Yeah, look, if you're missing 2 or 3 off a starting lineup and you're bringing guys in from the bench to start, then that would usually give you your impact, you start to see the squad depth maybe not being as strong. Like at county level, it's hard bringing boys off the bench whenever you're using the guys who usually come on to start the game. So I think that's the conundrum with Mickey. And one of Mickey's things with Tyrone was they always fame for finishing with the strongest team. So is it a case of that? Does he maybe hold somebody like Emmett in reserve and play someone else? You know, I suppose people were saying that whenever Emmett came back in this year, like they really missed him last year, and you've seen the impact of him not being there, coming on the 50th minute. If they had it against Kerry last year, like he'd done in the previous year, it would have given him fresh legs. But it's probably hard then to throw him in from the start and him not having played a full county game in a while and expect him to do the exact same. But they might have to maybe tactically change it a wee bit, just in terms of the personnel that they have. You know, McFall might come back to the half-back line now. Like I've always said, he feels more comfortable. I think he feels more comfortable coming onto the ball as opposed to his back to goal. You know, he was playing number 6 for Glen Mahara there all year, and he was probably one of the better players. And I think he's better moving on to the ball coming behind the midfield. So I think that maybe, no, that's just me surmising that. They might make a change there as well. It might then have to tweak the forward line a bit. But with Niall Loughlin, I think he is longer term a Gallagher an operation of some sort. With him out, the forward options are now dwindling too. So it's just about sort of trying to manage through this period where there's a lot of football and training and all that sort of stuff. But I suppose that's what Mickey and Gavin Devon experienced enough to know all that.
I suppose, Gerard, how is the feeling in Derry? Because obviously, after winning the league, everybody had them ranked as, you know, number 2 in the country and the top contenders to Dublin for the Ireland crown. Then Jim McGuinness comes along and does what he does, and sort of knocks Derry back a wee bit. Maybe the Galway game, while they played well in bits and pieces and had that Wigan goal chance that, you know, goes up the other way, and Galway get a goal, like it's fine margins, but 2 back-to-back championship defeats, the first time in a while I think Derry have suffered that. So how's everything in Derry? Is it just a wee bit, maybe not as high as it was at one stage, but maybe not as low as it looks from the outside either?
Yeah, that's probably what it is. You know, like you're always taught the highs. The highs are never as good as you think they are, but the lows are never as bad as you think they are. There's a happy medium there somewhere in between. Now, the Donegal game probably rocked Derry a wee bit, especially from like the fans looking in from the outside. But after then, they get over it, and the same with Donegal done to Tyrone, got to an Ulster final and says, well, fair enough, that's a really good Donegal side. Then you're coming up against the Galway side. Now, I was down at the league game around the last weekend of February where Derry beat them by 5, but they were 10 and it was 10 to go. But it was a Galway game minus Walsh, Comer, McDaid, Conroy, Finnerty, completely different side that they played last week.
Sean Kelly only come on that day.
Sean Kelly only come on that day, is right. Yeah. So that's basically 6 years stronger players. But Derry sort of hung in against Galway for the most part, given McKinless had been sent off after 20 minutes, right up until the last 10 minutes, where they conceded the goal that Derry had a goal chance at one end, went down the other. But their first goal also came from like a shank kick out, which was sort of a freak kick out, whereas, you know, Lynch usually wouldn't kick them like that. So, like, Derry generally played well enough, but they didn't get the result. So I think this week for Derry fans, it's just about trying to get the result and because if you get beat 3 in a row, it's hard to turn that around. Like I've heard Oisin McConville talk about Derry can turn this around. He's only one game from turning it around. But if they could beat 3 in a row, and they're facing into the last game against Westmeath, who Westmeath caused a bit of upset in their group stages last year as well, caused Tyrone to panic, they caused Armagh as well. As they're facing into their last game and a do or die game against Westmeath just to stay alive, I think it might cause a bit of panic.
And this becomes nearly a do or die game, Gerard, because for Armagh, obviously they're hoping to top the group and have that free weekend then, which is the big prize, I suppose, for topping the group. While Derry, if they win, well, suddenly they're back in the reckoning again, because Armagh could beat Galway on the last day, and Derry suddenly it comes down to score difference, and it was a crazy end of the league. The group stages last year that happened, Armagh ended up finishing top. But is it as important as that? Is it too? I'm overemphasising it that this is do or die for both teams, or probably more so Derry than Armagh?
I think maybe probably a bit more so for Derry, simply because it's out of Derry's hands at the moment. Even if Derry do get a result against Armagh on Sunday, they're still then dependent on Armagh to go to Galway and get a 1 and see what way the score difference lies. And plus, Derry would have to beat Westmeath. Whereas for Armagh, everything is still in their own hands. So if they beat Derry, they go into a winner-takes-all game against Galway if they beat Westmeath. So I think it's probably a bit more important for Derry, but then they're still relying on other teams' results, which isn't always the best. The best outcome for if you can't control your own destiny. But I suppose they'll just be thinking about this week and this week only, and both camps will be saying the exact same thing. We're not thinking beyond this game. Don't be thinking about the last game. It'll deal with itself when it comes around. But you hope now that, given the games at home in Celtic Park, that 4 o'clock on Sunday, it's to be decent weather at Gallagher. There could be a bit of a buzz about it. Celtic Park's generally, over the years now that Derry have been going quite well, has been seen as a real good venue to come and play in. The crowds on top of you, crowds that come to it for the first time for championship games seem to really enjoy it as well. So hopefully we get that from us from a supporter's point of view.
And I was just looking through that, Jared. I think the last time the teams met in Celtic Park was the 2020 championship, and obviously that was during the pandemic and there was no crowds or anything allowed. Armagh won by 2 points, I think it was, in the end. But how big is home advantage, do you feel, in these group stages, Jared? Because usually in the league, it's a rule of thumb that, you win your home games and you'll be safe either road, first and foremost. But in the group stages, home advantage seems to be huge, and teams obviously like playing at home and in front of their home crowds and that.
Yeah, well, if you look at the first couple of games, that Armagh beat Westmeath and neighbour at home, Galway beat Derry and neighbour at home. I would have said it is massively important, only the fact that Donegal came and beat Derry in Celtic Park. So Derry have lost that wee bit of aura about Celtic Park then from the championship. So for Derry, it's just about probably going out and putting the performance together. It means that come down the street, that in the last 10 or 12 minutes, again, it's still in their own hands, that they're either in a position where they kick on, or they're in a position where, if it is nip and tuck, that there's still plenty of life in them for the last 10 or 12, because Armagh's bench, given that Derry's injured, might be a bit stronger than Derry's, given the players that they might be able to bring on, who would generally start in around their own county team or most county teams. So Armagh might have that wee bit of advantage over them. But Derry will be hoping that the lads that line out from the start can maybe do the business for them.
I think the last time I was talking to you, Jared, was up in Cullyhanna. We were previewing, was it the Ulster final or the Ulster semi-final maybe? I think it was the Ulster final at that stage.
Intermediate final, yeah. It was Ballyheies and Cullyhanna.
Ballyheies and Cullyhanna, and obviously we'd have been talking about the Cullyhanna county men and that, and Aidan Nugent is one of them, and he's been really impressive off the bench against Donegal and Westmeath as well. He got 2 points after coming on last week. So is he a player you see maybe having a big impact this weekend? He's a player that I know a lot of Armagh fans want to see starting, but it's trying to fit him into this forward line. That's the issue at the minute. But the way he's playing, he's having a huge impact as that sort of super sub role.
Yeah, he kicked 2 against Donegal as well, and he kicked 2 at the weekend when he come on.
He kicked 3 against Donegal.
3 maybe. He's fit to kick off both feet, which is like he kicked 1 against Donegal from under the stand, but I've seen against Westmeath, he kicked One was lit with his left foot from the terrace side. So he has that ability from a defender's point of view. You're maybe unsure as to what way he will go, back or forward as well. So, like, and Kieran McGeeney obviously puts a lot of stock in him because he had him as, was it a joint or vice captain last year, was it the year before?
2 years there in a row, I think.
Yeah, so he's obviously well thought of within the squad. And that, so they obviously trust him. But again, it's trying and find the right balance. Like if he does start, does it mean that McCluskey would have to go on him, or do they keep McCluskey on Conte just for the pure speed factor? The two of them are real flying machines, so it's giving Derry another sort of different headache in their own defence.
And I suppose the Donegal game, Gerard, in Celtic Park, I was lucky enough to be at it. I got had 2 tickets, and they were like gold dust at the time, but I was lucky enough to get 2. And obviously the thing coming out of it was about Owen Lynch and coming out for kickouts, and Donegal kicking out over the press and everything else. But I only seen bits and pieces of the Galway game. Does Owen Lynch still come out for that kick-out press? Does he maybe not come out as far, or did Donegal or did Derry sort of backtrack on that, or how did Derry react to that happening against Donegal?
Well, they didn't press as hard for it now, but he still come out plenty of time when Derry had the ball. But I think that's a different scenario because you're in control and you can shuffle it around and pass it back to him. But if you're coming out like Gleeson for Galway just likes thumping the ball out too. So I think Derry were like, no, we're not going to commit them as far this time because we learned our lesson. And if you weren't seeing they learn the lesson from it, that's where serious criticism comes in then. If you get caught repeatedly doing the same things, I don't think you might do it against Armagh. But it could depend on all the elements. Like Armagh in the second half versus Westmeath played with the wind. And I'm sure you noticed one of the kicks that they got a goal chance from that was blocked down. It was brought back for a free. Lee and Hughes hit it straight down the middle. It went straight to the far 45. Somebody caught it. I can't remember who can run it off and end up with Rory Grugan fed it to someone.
I think it was Connolly had the chance.
Connolly, the goal chance. But the referee had his hand up anyway, so they ended up getting a point out of it. But the kick out caught everybody off guard completely. So Armagh, you only have to see that once to know Armagh have it in their locker. So now that Derry have seen that, I don't think that they will commit as hard again the way they did against Donegal, knowing that Patton's a wee bit different. That people were like, well, Patton's the only keeper who can do what he can do because he only needs 2 steps to do that. But people forget for the 4th goal, Patton was off injured. And it was Donegal sub-keeper done what Patton had been doing.
Yeah.
So most keepers these days have that in their locker, and obviously Lee and Hughes obviously has it now too. We've seen that on Sunday.
I think that was interesting in the second half because at the start of the second half, Westmeath completely dropped off Armagh's kickouts and they were letting Armagh have it short. And once they did start to press, then the one you're talking about, Armagh nearly got a goal off the big long kickout. So as you say, it is in their locker and it's something that they can call upon maybe if they need to, or if there's a big squeeze on at some stage in Celtic Park. Gerard, just before I let you go, I suppose 2 questions. How do you see Sunday going, and how do you see the group stages ending up then in 2 weeks' time?
I hope, but I think Derry will win on Sunday just because I think that a wee bit of pressure on the squad now, and they're like, I think it probably a wee bit more pressure on Derry to get the one home venue, hopefully count for something. The players will have been asked a few questions the last couple of weeks, and whenever you're in that environment, when someone's questioning your ability, I don't think they question the character of the team because they were playing well and they were going well right up until the last 10 minutes against Galway with the man down. But I think when questions are put up to you, generally this Derry team has sort of come up with answers. So I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. The 2 teams that beat them were 2 very good teams. They've proved that. Both of them won their provincial championships, Donegal and Galway. So it's not as if to say that they were overrun by teams that you would say aren't within Derry's calibre. So for that reason, I'm going to plump for Derry to win it. In terms of how the group stage finishes up, I think maybe no matter what happens on Sunday, I think Galway still might see the group out, and it'll end up then Derry maybe 1 and 2, Armagh 1 and 2. That'll be a case of the head-to-head actually to see who finishes second or third. And if Derry, that's also another factor in Derry won. If Derry won on Sunday, there's a better chance of them finishing second as opposed to third.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's going to be calculator Sunday that last weekend, Jared, same as last year. It's going to be some crack trying to work everything out. But I think it gives a brilliant weekend. So hopefully, Derry and Armagh serve up a good game to match the weather. And I know there's a big Armagh following going to Celtic Park, so it'll feel like a proper big championship game, which is exactly what it is. We'll be covering the game. Sorry, go on, Jared.
Like we have been the Armagh plenty of times in the last few years. More so, Derry Miners have played a lot there, and Derry club teams have generally played there a few times between Glenmaharan and St Neil, whereas Armagh people probably don't get to Celtic Park as much. I've been in the athletic grounds twice. I was over at the under-20 final when Tone played our day there 3 weeks ago on the Wednesday night. I have been in the athletic grounds 3 or 4 times a year, and like it's a journey we're used to making. Again, probably more so with club and underage teams, but for Armagh people to come up to Celtic Park, it's more of a novelty. So I think that'll help draw them up as well, and given the good weather that's in it, it'll probably make for a good championship Sunday, hopefully.
And I think there's a few going up on Saturday. I know I'm going up Saturday night myself to enjoy Derry's nightlife, so hopefully it lives up to expectations too. But as usual, we'll be covering the game with obviously podcast previews, interviews, match reports and everything else. And we'll have our club roundup podcast on Saturday morning and hopefully another podcast on Sunday evening. Then we'll get a few interviews on Sunday in Celtic Park, no matter what way the game ends up. So, Gerard, great to hear from you. Thanks very much for coming on, and hopefully get talking to you in Celtic Park on Sunday.
Cheers, Sean. Maybe see you about. Dead on.
Someone hurls through, he might go for it, still going, trying to barge his way through, goes to the shot, what a goal! Arriving Rian O'Neill from an almost impossible angle. And that's the rousing score Armagh we're looking for.
Connor Turbin kicks this one in on